Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of the Bush League Huddle Fantasy Football Podcast. I am Fabio. I'm joined as always with Roger, Emeka, Nak, Anthony, Nak, Arado. How are you guys? How's it going?
Was
Let's
that
keep
for
this.
was that for John Morant
Yeah,
the gunshots?
yeah. Am I gonna get fined by what's his name? Silver, David Silver. He's not
Adam
the
Adam.
NFL commissioner. That's not gonna happen. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being on this wonderful, wonderful episode with us today. Um, we got a great episode for you. We're going to be previewing some wide receivers. They're going to be coming up in the upcoming NFL draft. But before we jump into that, ladies and gentlemen, please, please, please follow us, like us, subscribe to all of our social medias. We're on TikTok, we're on YouTube, we're on Instagram, we're on Apple Podcasts, we're on Spotify, everywhere where you get your podcast. That's where we're going to be. We interact with our fans. That's right. That's you guys on a regular basis, daily, weekly, hourly, if necessary. Please don't be shy. Ask us your questions. The NFL season is never over, and neither are we. So we're going to keep this train rolling as we keep things going. We got some news and notes to jump into right now. Geno Smith, new quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders, has signed a contract extension, a 2-year contract extension worth $75 million. 66 and a half of it is guaranteed. Essentially keeps him in Vegas for the next 3 years, which is very good for him. Fantastic. But another quarterback move, if you want to call it that. Joe Milton traded to the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas get him for a 2025 seventh round pick. New England gets a 2025 fifth round pick, which is interesting because I think New England used a sixth round pick on him last year for Joe Milton. I I thought that was a pretty acceptable price, to be honest with you. Dallas only is trading off their 2025 fifth round pick for him, and they're getting a seventh round pick back. I heard that the offers for him were a lot higher, but apparently New England want to do right by Joe and send him over to Dallas. So Dallas now get their backup quarterback that had signed with Baltimore over the offseason.
I wonder why Dallas was his preferred destination, knowing that you're a backup there, 100%.
Yeah,
He's gonna be a
that's true.
backup everywhere though. Like I don't know where he would have gone to compete really for like after one start.
The Colts.
No, well the Colts have two now,
No,
but I'm saying I know Pittsburgh was interested.
Yeah,
Why wouldn't you go to a scenario like that where the leash, if they don't sign Rodgers, couldn't be insanely long on Mason Rudolph, right?
yeah, I think Dak is a candidate to have what he did to Tony Romo happen to him in like in a few years. And
100%.
Milton
Maybe.
is like 23, 24. Like, if he could sit back for a few years, it actually is a pretty decent opportunity in my opinion.
And how many
Interesting.
times in the last few years has Dak played a full season?
Exactly, that too.
Like we touched upon that a few episodes past, right? Excuse me. When Cooper Rush signed with the Ravens, it's like, okay, you know what? Like, does this affect CD Lamb stock at all? Because Dak's not going to play a full season, and Cooper Rush, by all accounts, was serviceable enough for CD Lamb. Now they have Joe Milton. I mean, Raj, that's actually a very good point. Joe Milton could supersede Dak, mind you, with that contract though. It's going to be hard for Dallas to ever get rid of him, I guess. Well, remains to be seen. Jalen Milroe, so a quarterback prospect that we spoke about a few weeks ago, is rumored to be invited to attend the draft in Green Bay. This is notable news because only a certain number of prospects that are expected to be drafted are allowed to be present physically at the draft. About only, I think, 30. So that means that the expectation is that Jalen Milroe will be drafted in the first round as per the NFL. I mean, these are rumors, obviously. I don't think it's been confirmed yet, but
He's a quarterback. I think we saw what happened last year with quarterbacks going,
mhm.
6 of them went in the first round. This could happen, but there's always players that get invited and are not drafted, right? So I guess they're just trying to make sure if there is a chance you invite the QB there.
Yeah,
Apparently, he had a really good private workout with the Browns. I thought I saw that going through my Twitter feed
He
today.
did.
But
Yeah.
also, not Schefter, Rappaport was on McAfee. He didn't seem to want to corroborate that report. I don't know if it was a report from Schefter, but he didn't seem to want to confirm that report. So I feel like there's more to it than that with regards to Monroe. But either way, it's a potentially a good sign for him for sure.
We are, ladies and gentlemen, we would be remiss if we would not bring you another Aaron Rodgers Watch update. We are now on day 31, and things have not changed. Thank you very much for that update. We're going to keep on moving right along.
Big
Yeah.
night on Wednesday. We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens indeed. Why, Knack? Why what's happening on Wednesday? Why don't you fill in our listeners? What's happening on Wednesday?
Yeah, Pat McAfee's having a big night at in Pittsburgh PPG Arena, I believe it is. Sold out crowd. Speculation is that Aaron Rodgers is going to show up and announce that he's signed, which I still don't buy, and a lot of Steelers insiders kind of agree, where it just wouldn't be his style, especially knowing that it could happen, like knowing that it's been around the atmosphere. Like I don't. It's very not Rodgers, I find. So I don't think it happens then.
Or maybe because it's not Rodgers, it is very Rodgers since he goes
It's reverse
against the
psychology.
grain.
Yeah, who knows, man? I can't see it happening, but we'll see.
But that's a very good point, though. Especially we're going to see how things shape up on Wednesday. Another little piece of news over here that could impact the fantasy season. The Jets are apparently leaning to an RB committee, as per comments from new head coach Aaron Glenn. So, Knack, does that mean we're going to stick with you, Knack? You've been pretty vocal about this. Brees Hall stock down. Is that a thing? Are we going to be pushing, or after those comments, are you going to be not so high on Brees Hall?
I've seen some trade rumors swirling as well today surrounding Brees Hall. Look, if it's definitely a committee, I'm stock goes a little bit down. He's been what the consensus top 5 running back pick the last few years. Maybe he may not get top 10 if this happens. Like, is it really going to be committee? Are we going to really see what the Lions did? And even if we did, I mean, if they deploy him like Jahmyr Gibbs, maybe it does work. But I don't know. To me, once you start hearing committees, you kind of go stock down. But I don't know. With Justin Fields, it's kind of a wild card. It might work.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I think, to be honest, this is still very early on. I think the only viable, not only viable, I think Justin Fields will be the most viable fantasy starter on that team. I think Garrett Wilson will bring you back some wide receiver. Yeah, Rogers looking at me all confused. I don't think Garrett Wilson will be able to come back with those wide receiver 1 numbers, and neither will Brees Hall with the RB1 numbers either.
DJ Moore had 93 catches, 1,300 yards with Justin Fields.
I agree.
2020.
That was 1 year. Just saying. But it remains to be seen. I don't know. I think for me, Garrett Wilson, you could get him at a value pick later on. I was listening to a podcast about that today. Some guys having Garrett Wilson ranked very low, like mid tier wide receiver 2, even low end wide receiver 2.
I don't see like a Joey B Chase like combination. Like they really, like, they were only 1 year apart. It's been a few years now that these Ohio State guys have been apart. It doesn't just come back, I feel.
Remains to be seen indeed. But we had some excellent TV over the weekend, especially for Colorado Buffaloes having their pro days. So Shadur Sanders as well as Travis Hunter.
Not a pro day.
Excuse me.
Showcase.
Showcase. Thank you, Knack, for that correction.
Deion Sanders would be very upset to hear you
He
say
would
pro
be
day.
upset. We don't want to get Papa Sanders upset now, do we?
Friend of the pod.
Friend of the pod, indeed. So they had their showcase on April 4th, which I think was Friday, Friday of last week. And by all accounts, Sanders really showed up and showed out. There was a lot of questioning about his deep ball, but from what I was watching, his deep ball was on point. It was really, really good. We're going to jump into Travis Hunter a little bit later on in the podcast. We're not going to talk too much about that. But interestingly enough, though, Titans canceled their in-person interview with Sanders and Hunter, which pretty much confirms they're going to be going Cam Ward at 1. Now the latest is that the Browns are expected to take Hunter at 2. Giants might be forced to pivot and take Carter at 3, from what I've been reading. So I think the Giants are pretty much all out on Sanders. So does that mean that Sanders is going to be dropping? Is this going to be Aaron Rodgers 2.0, Raj? And if he does fall, how far do you think he's going to fall?
I think the Saints is the jump off point where there's a good chance that he gets taken there, considering I think we've bandied about how bad Derek Carr is as a quarterback. the cap hit is brutal though, but I think they need to move off from him. The thing is, the moves they made this offseason are more win now moves. If you look at what they've done, they still feel like they still have Cam Jordan, they still have Tyrann Mathieu, Chris Olave, Alvin Kamara. So I think it would be interesting if they draft him, set him aside, and then move on from Carr next year or the year after. Whereas cap hit, I think his dead cap hit, I think is more on the 23, 24 million. But yeah, I don't know. I think from the pro day perspective, like pro days are like, I'm starting to feel it's a bit of BS, to be honest. Like it's a lot of fluff, it's a lot of talking. Like yeah, he did look good, but I've always been a fan of Shedeur anyways.
Mhm.
And now we're talking about like patting. You know how long is he patting the ball? Like
Oh, that's ridiculous.
it's absolutely ridiculous. And like
That's
anyone
ridiculous.
who's using that as a way to discredit him is like, stop talking about football. Like just everyone pass the ball. So
Yeah, it's funny you say that. Darius Slayton and Micah Parsons got into a little Twitter spat about that actually, which is extremely comical for a Giants fan to see that happen.
I think it was just because there was a couple of instances where he was like, it was a long pat of the ball, so it was like obvious that the throw was coming. But I think I agree. People are just looking for any excuse to put this guy down at this point, I feel.
Yeah, and you're gonna tell me that he's the only QB prospect to ever pat the ball before he throws it? Like, how come this is only coming up and being relevant now, right? So
no, everyone pats the ball.
exactly. But with that being said, FanDuel actually have given the best odds to the Saints to draft him at plus 370. Plus 270, excuse me. Giants at plus 370, Pittsburgh plus 600, and Cleveland plus 700. And Adam Schefter actually went on the talk show today, or radio show, or whatever, but there was a clip of him on Twitter, and basically Adam Schefter wild card scenario on what could happen to Shedeur Sanders. So if he gets passed on by all these guys, there's Miami at 13 that apparently is interested, Arizona at 16, Los Angeles is 26. Schefter mentioned that Shedeur is most likely going to go to the Saints at 9, or probably Pittsburgh at 21 if he goes that far. The only reason why I bring this up is because, I mean, everyone might poo-poo on Schefter, but last year he did correctly predict Michael Penix going as early as 8, which is exactly where he went. So I think there's a little bit of credence that could be added to these crazy scenarios that he has. I just thought it'd be interesting to mention.
Well, I don't like Arizona or Miami, to be
Arizona
honest.
makes no sense to me. Miami, maybe if you're concerned about Tua.
How long does Tua has how many years?
He just signed it.
But even
It's
then,
4 years left.
Los Angeles makes the most
Yeah.
sense out of those three. LA makes the most sense.
LA would be fantastic for him.
Talk about spotlight.
And ladies and gentlemen, we'd be remiss if we did not take this opportunity to bid a very fond farewell to two players that retired over the last week. We have Miami Dolphins left tackle Terron Armstead. The only reason why I bring this up is because it might impact the draft from Miami's point of view. Maybe they'll be looking for a tackle. And Quintorius Lopez Jones Jr., also known as Julio Jones, retired this over the weekend. Is he a Hall of Fame or Hall of Very Good?
Hall of Fame.
I'm not going to disagree with you.
I think he has 6 or 7 All Pros.
5.
5?
7
Pro Bowls.
7 Pro Bowls, yeah.
5 all pros.
5 All Pros gets you in.
Yeah,
5 and 13 seasons, and arguably the last 2 seasons were
they barely.
He was just old with Tampa and the Eagles, and really did nothing.
Yeah,
it's like half the years he was an All Pro.
Yeah, he was a fantastic wide receiver.
I hope he gets in first ballot. I think what might ding him is the touchdowns, like 66 touchdowns.
Yeah, he doesn't have as many.
It's like tight end level.
I don't think he's ever broken 10.
He's never broken 10.
Yeah.
He's never broken 10. That might hurt him a bit, but I hope he gets in. He was probably one of the best. It's the one of wide receivers who you could literally say that he can easily be top 2 wide receivers during his generation, top 3 wide receivers.
Which is the Ram that's not in? Is it Holt?
Yes,
it's Holt. Yeah.
How did his stats compare?
Holt had 1,300 yards, and I believe
13,
I know he had 13,000 yards, and I believe he had I want to say like around 60 touchdowns as well. Let me see.
So he may not get in first ballot, but I feel like he'll get in.
Julio has more yards, right? Doesn't he have 16,000 yards?
No, they're both around the 13,000 mark. Holt has 74 touchdowns.
Okay, and
Yeah,
he's still not in. I don't know how
he's
many
still
All
in there.
Pros.
2.
Okay, so the All Pros, I feel like supplant you a little
What
bit.
what dings Holt is he played with Isaac Bruce. I
Yeah.
think that's really really what hurts him a lot.
Mm.
Also, I think Jones also made the all-decade team, all-pro decade team or something like that. He has one of those accolades as well, like a top 100 player or like an all-decade team or something like that that could be looked at as well, like when they're comparing or when they're deciding on who goes into the Hall of Fame. Anyways, I hope he gets in. We're going to see. But now to the fun part of the episode, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to do a wide receiver deep dive. We're going to compare the wide receivers that are up for being drafted in this 2025 NFL draft. We're going to compare them to the 2024 draft class. We're going to go over some big marquee names like Travis Hunter, Tetairoa McMillan, a little Matthew Golden too, and maybe some other guys that might squeak into the first round. But we're going to start off with the number one rated prospect in the draft, arguably the number one rated prospect in the draft. He's PFF's big board ranked number 2. So depending on what day you see his stats or you see his information, he might be 1, he might be 2, but he's really right up there. Travis Hunter, he's projected to go round 1. He's projected to go in the top 5, probably in the top 3 realistically. We got some wide receiver comps to Chad Johnson, Devontae Smith. We got some cornerback comps to Darius Slay, Champ Bailey. We got an MLB comp to Shohei Ohtani because this guy does it all. If you would have listened to podcast episodes maybe 3 months ago, I was like, okay, how is this even possible? How can a guy be this good at wide receiver and this good at cornerback and play 100% or 95%, let's say, of both the offensive and defensive snaps? But I'm here to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I'm eating my words. This guy's very good. He, on his pro day, he was very fluid. I know he was just running without pads on and all that stuff, and we get it, but you can see his cuts. You can see the way he breaks in and out of routes. And I don't know about you guys, but he was catching all of his balls without gloves. Maybe that's interesting. Maybe it's not. I thought it was just like, you know what? He didn't have to wear gloves and he's still snagging all those balls. Um, we're looking at a marquee prospect in Travis Hunter. Raj, what do you like about him? What's your take on him? Where do you think he's going to go?
For me, it's the feet. Like the way he moves, the release at the line is just magical. That's where the Chad Ochocinco comp really resonates with me a lot. So just very fluid, high catch, not catch radius, but body control. You mentioned the hands as well, and the thing is, just the fact that he plays cornerback or wide receiver is, just not sure whether or not he is 100% a wide receiver, 100% a
Yeah.
cornerback. That's kind of what the only really big concern you have. And maybe the fact he's a bit wiry, he's a bit slender, but overall for me, it's the total package. Love watching him play. And if you see year over year improvement in terms of the production at the wide receiver, there's been remarkable improvement.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that at all. I mean, he really is a true unicorn. When you're that good on both sides of the ball, like you have to be drafted as such, in my opinion. And then it's just like whatever team takes you, they decide on where they're going to put you and how they're going to play you. Nak, where would he rank amongst 2024 wide receivers in your opinion?
Ranking. I feel like it's hard to say because you've seen them play a year, so it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
hard to comp them. But uh, I don't know if I have him above Neighbors. I don't think I have him above Neighbors. I don't know if I have him above Harrison. I know that he struggled in his rookie year, but somewhere along those lines, maybe just below those two guys.
Yeah.
The thing is with him is like he needs like a specific refinement, right? Like he needs to. I feel like in order to thrive in the NFL, he's going to have to pick a position. I actually had him comped like Stephon Diggs actually as a wide receiver. Um, but he does. He has exceptional skills, ball skills. He's really, really, really good. But it's just that if you're going to start playing two ways, practice is going to be tough to kind of learn specific duties on both sides of the ball, especially at the NFL level. And I think Raj mentioned that his slender frame might have he might struggle versus more physical corners. So yeah, I don't know. I think in between. I think Harrison, Neighbors, and then Hunter for me.
Do we see a scenario where he only exclusively plays one position?
Yes,
Yeah,
I think so. I think at least to start, and I think he would be well suited to play wide receiver to begin, and then if you want, you put him into some like dime or nickel packages where you have like slot corner style. Like I can see him going all out as a WR1 or 2 and then going on defense and playing the number 1 wide receiver on the other team. Like tough.
The wide
Yeah.
receiver, that's where the money is as well.
Yeah, of course.
yeah.
So I agree. I think he'll play mostly full-time wide receiver, and then, like you said, maybe 20, 30 snaps a game at corner. But
He'll be a returner. Maybe he'll be a returner too.
I don't know if he has the profile
Yeah,
to
I
be
don't
a
know about that.
return, and then that's a lot to put on him. Like return, like there's some guys who've done it, but it'd be a lot to put on him.
Mm.
But the thing is, him playing both positions keeps his edge on understanding. That's why he's so good man versus zone. Like I remember we saw that that reception perception data stat on he's 97th percentile in terms of man, 92nd percentile in terms of zone. I think playing both of those positions, cornerback and wide receiver, allows him to have a level up at the wide receiver position. Being in those
100%.
DB meetings, meeting defensive coaches as well. I think that has a big impact. So I would almost, at the very least, hope he doesn't lose that aspect in terms of being able to at least be in those meetings as well.
So I remember on one of the Kelsey podcast, one of the Travis Kelsey and Jason Kelsey podcasts, they were talking about what the hardest position is to play. And Travis Kelsey was like, it's cornerback 100%. Or it was Jason Kelsey. He was like, it's cornerback 100%. It's like, it's one of the very few it's one of the very few positional classes where you have to be like, you don't see any white people there. It's all black. It's like you need to be the most athletic possible to be those positions. It's so hard. It's such a tough position. And it's
Cooper
true.
DeJean, hold my beer.
That was before he actually got drafted, but prior to that episode came out before Cooper DeJean. But he's the exception, obviously. But still, like I, I agree with you, Roger, 100%. I think the fact that he can play both positions just shows how intelligent of a football player is, and getting those reps at cornerback will make him be a better wide receiver. But at the same time, you follow the money. He should. I mean, you would think he'd be drafted as a wide receiver, but it's going to be. We're going to see in a few weeks from now when the Browns take him at 2. I guess.
Do you guys think he's an all-pro wide receiver?
I think he has potential for it.
Maybe, but
I think he has potential for it.
it's tough to say, like tough to call a guy like all pro, because you could be like really, really good and never be an all pro.
Well, if you're picking him as a wide receiver in the third overall pick, he better be an all pro. Just like Marvin Harrison better be an all pro. Malik Neighbors basically had all pro stats, like for the most part. Like a wide receiver that high, like you look at Calvin Johnson, Julio Jones was 6th, AJ Green was 3rd,
Jamar
Chase, like the last wide receiver was tight end, but yeah,
future all pro tight end.
But I don't know if you guys remember Charles Rodgers. He rest in peace. 2nd overall for the Lions, and he was an absolute bust, right? Like, and even Corey Davis, 5th overall. So like,
overall.
You pick that high, a wide receiver, he better be an all pro, and I think he will be.
I like it. You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna keep this trade rolling. We're gonna move on to Nak's favorite wide receiver, Tetairoa McMillan, coming out of Arizona. The PFF Big Board have him ranked as the top 15 prospect. So he is the 2nd-rated wide receiver out of this draft class. He's being comped to Drake London. I've seen that a lot. I've seen Drake London a lot. N'Keal Harry, Mike Evans. Recently, I saw T. Higgins and AJ Green, which I thought were very appropriate too. Similar profiles to Sammy Watkins, Kenny Britt, and Mr. Nick Westbrook-Ikine.
Well done.
Nice.
Thank you. I've been practicing. That's why I need a little bit of prep on this. I think the biggest thing about McMillan is the fact that he's a big, tall prospect, big, tall wide receiver, but catch radius is huge. Does most, if not all, the routes on the route tree. So, Nak, I want to get your take on him. What do you think about him?
Tetairoa. I just love that name. I want to draft him in fantasy just for his name. Tetairoa. No, you hit it, man. You hit it right on the head. I think 6'4", 219. This guy is a big body. I think my comp I had was Mike Williams as well. Contested, good contested ball catcher. So really good comp to him. And a red zone mismatch. This guy in the red
Yeah,
zone is you're gonna be targeted early and often. I think even in his
I like that.
rookie season, depending obviously where he goes, but um, doesn't consistently separate, which is obviously an issue. But we've seen how bigger, stronger receivers don't really need that separation in order to catch. There's George Pickens that comes to mind. There was also a wide receiver last year. I forget the name. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank, but him too, he had trouble separating. But it's that 50-50
Keon Coleman.
balls that Keon Coleman.
Mm.
But it's that 50-50 ball ability that you have to make these contested catches that keep you. His frame is going to keep you always in on any ball that shoots its way. But Roger, something?
So my take on that is the 50-50 guys who do that consistently have the dog in them. Like DeAndre Hopkins built basically a Hall of Fame career on not being able to separate worth a lick. And he is as intense of a wide receiver as there is. And I think that's like the concern I have with McMillan, and what I've seen about him is that there was that there's that stuff, that video running around where he doesn't watch film,
Mm.
he doesn't watch football, he doesn't watch tape of himself. That to me is like a big concern. I don't know if you guys saw it, but it was going around quite a bit. And even Steve Smith did a really nice breakdown about McMillan, showing how he tends to get down on himself if he's being out physical. A guy who's 6'4", 219 should not actually be getting out physical, and he is.
Yeah.
And then he ends up giving up on a lot of plays and a lot of routes. And Steve Smith actually did if you guys want to check it out, it's really good. Like he breaks down where even there was an interception that was thrown, McMillan completely gave up on the route. So that's where like the size is very, very intriguing. The high air yards, but man, you got to have more intensity as a player, in my opinion.
Especially in the NFL.
Yeah.
No, that's a very good point. But to Nag's point, though, he was tied for third with the most amount of contested catches with 18 amongst the draftable wide receivers. So that's still going to be a very, very important piece of his physicality. The fact that he's still getting up there and getting those contested catches. I mean, maybe you would think that all of the concerns that Steve Smith has might be coached out once he gets to a real NFL program. Remains to be seen, I suppose. But I still obviously like him a lot as a prospect. Curious to think where you guys is going to be drafted at. Like, if you take a look at the teams that are like, because this is really the first wide receiver we can, like, Travis Hunter obviously
Yeah.
is he's a unicorn here, right? And he's going to go regardless of what position he's going to play for the most part. But this is the first real wide receiver we can all agree that he's ranked the number one wide receiver out of this draft class. I saw him going as early as the Panthers at 8, which I like a lot. I think that makes a lot of sense. I even saw him going to the Cowboys at 12.
So
I could see him going, sorry, Raj, to cut you off, but I could see him also going to the Patriots at 4 if Hunter and Abdul Carter are not on the board. They need a wide receiver. This is a big guy. They have to hit. They need an all-pro wide receiver in
You
that
just
locker room.
you just know McMillan is going to be a bust if he goes to the Patriots.
Just like
yeah.
Because they've been doing so well at drafting wide receivers.
they've never look. They've to their I guess chagrin, they've never drafted one this high. They've never gotten to the
True.
point where they're able to draft one this high. So
True.
I think they're a team definitely to watch on the look. They loaded up on defense, right? Like they're completely loaded.
Mm-hmm.
Unless they want to really turn heads and go genty for some reason, which I still think the Jaguars might do. But I think he might. I don't think he gets past New England if Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter are gone.
That as a trade down, or you take him fourth?
No, I think they'll take him at 4.
Because he's like, there's a lot of, I mean, we'll talk about him after, but there's a lot of people who think Matthew Golden's better. But one that could be interesting would be the Raiders. The
Yeah.
Raiders and
If
may,
Genty, like
maybe
if
as
they
a
don't go
trade,
Genty,
maybe as either as a trade down. But I thought the Raiders just as a fit could be interesting, and the Mike Evans comp is interesting to me because John Spytek, the current GM, was with the Bucks for almost 10 years. And they have a need for an somewhat
do.
physical wide receiver there. So if it's not Genty and they want to bolster the offense, I thought the Raiders could be interesting for McMillan.
I like that. I definitely like the fit. I don't know. I don't see them passing on Genty.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to one of those two, to be honest with you, for the Raiders. But I've seen McMillan being mocked to the Raiders too. I think it just depends on what part of their offense they're evaluating the most, I suppose. But Genty, it's like they have no running back. Like, my God, what's it, Cinereese or what's who are they running back?
Mostert.
Mostert? Yeah, exactly. And I love Mostert. I do. But, there's a little bit long in the tooth there.
No, you don't, you liar.
I do like Mostert.
I didn't even know he was with it.
Nobody else knew.
So much you like him.
I wish him the best in all of his future endeavors.
Right.
Hopefully we see him when we go to Vegas. So we're going to keep the train rolling over here. We got Matthew Golden, wide receiver out of Texas. Again, big board ranking, PFF big board ranking 17. So right behind Mr. Tetairoa McMillan over there. We see some comps to Jaylen Waddle, maybe without the yards after catch upside. Curtis Samuel. Recently today, I saw Chris Olave and Stephon Diggs, which I thought was very appropriate because I feel like Olave and Diggs play a very similar style of wide receiver.
Tyler
So this is
Lockett.
another guy that like. What was that? Sorry, Nick.
Tyler Lockett.
Tyler Lockett too. Yeah,
yep.
Tyler Lockett too. It's another wide receiver that Roger, you just alluded to him, so we're gonna jump off right with you over here, where this could be a potential. The wide receiver either taken before McMillan or right after him. It seems to be consensus wide receiver 3 if we're including Travis Hunter into the conversation. So I think you like him more than McMillan, right?
Yeah, this is the wide receiver archetype that I geared more towards. The kind of 6 foot, 200 pounds. He ran the 40 at 4.29, so he has extremely good speed.
It's very fast.
When I saw his highlights, really good stretching the field. He separates as well. Like he was open on every single downfield play. His average depth of target is actually 13.5, so it's really good. And for a guy his size, 61% contested catch rate. That is fantastic for a guy who's 6 foot. So, and you could get him on special teams as well. He was all Big 12 second team punt and kick return. So really, really like this guy. I thought DJ Moore could be a really good comp too, where if you look at him, you look at his highlights, you could tell he has a bit of dog in him too, and he could be a yak guy as well. So I think the only thing that might be concerning is the production. It's not elite production from him.
No.
58 catches, 950 yards in 2024, and he's had some injury issues as well over the past couple of years.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's a guy to watch in terms of dangerous after the catch. He could definitely, you get him the ball on some shallow crosses or just get the ball in his hands on wide receiver screens. I think that's how he's going to eat for the most part of his rookie season. I know you touched upon the limited production, but slight frame, like you said, so durability concerns with him. And I feel like he needs to improve and develop his release moves on press coverage. Maybe a little bit slower off the line, but definitely a wide receiver that's going to be going in the first round. I know we can, after that first one goes. So if you're talking maybe Patriots, Raiders, if they don't go Genty, like you have obviously Carolina that seems to be linked again with wide receivers. They were in on DK Metcalf before he chose Pittsburgh. So I think maybe like San Fran, no, but I could see a Dallas Cowboys link there.
I think he's
potentially like, I don't know if he gets really past the Cowboys. Played at Texas. Like there's a same kind of, like the Cowboys love those type of players, homegrown kind of talent.
He started in Houston, actually, University of Houston.
Yeah,
and then moved to Austin. So I don't think he gets past one of the Texas teams actually, and he'd be perfect for the Texans.
I was gonna say Houston, and yeah, Roger, I agree. He would be perfect for them because not even I was reading today, Tank Dell might miss all of the 2025 season.
Yeah, ACL.
Yeah, Houston's at picking 25 though.
Yeah,
I think a team like
I don't think it's impossible that
I
if he
think
goes that far.
Pittsburgh. I think a team like Pittsburgh might snag him at 21, and then you have even like Tampa Bay. Like Mike Evans is kind of getting up there in age. They're going to have to replace him. Would they potentially go for a
Seen that too.
wide receiver?
I've seen that too.
Well, they have what's his name?
McMillan.
Yeah, McMillan. I thought I was going to make a mistake there, so I stopped myself
Is
from
he a
saying it.
WR1 though? Is he a really like? Is he
He's a bit too similar to Godwin too.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's my general
Seattle
consensus.
Seattle needs wide receiver help. Seattle has not done anything aside. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did they just have JSN, right?
And Bobo.
and
Yeah,
Bobo.
exactly. And Jake Bobo. It'd be a nice little pairing to pair him Golden with JSN, kind of bring back to your point, Knack, Tyler Lockett, Golden Tate, smaller wide receivers that could stretch the field. Just one more thing on Golden. It's really interesting to see the wide receivers that have been drafted from Texas. So that might be what has kind of neutered his production recently. But Xavier Worthy, A.D. Mitchell, Matthew Golden, I think Isaiah Bond is supposed to get drafted too this year. So I think he's the best of the bunch, but a lot of good wide receivers that come out of Texas recently.
I keep saying Steelers, but once Rodgers signs, he's going to go get Alan Lazard, and he's going to go see if Bob is still looking for a place.
Try to trade for Devontae.
He's going to unretire Jordy Nelson.
Give me Donald Driver.
Give me Donald
Oh my
Driver.
God.
Yeah, so Matthew Golden, another potential wide receiver to go in the first round, and looking like 6 foot, 198 pounds. I do like that from a prototypical wide receiver that could really play all across the lines. Definitely solid boomer bust wide receiver too, though. I think that the limitation from him. I don't know if he's ever going to be a wide receiver 1, but then again, he hasn't even been drafted yet, so I think that's unfair to say. But he's going to be definitely one to look out for too next year, depending on where he goes. We're going to move on to my favorite wide receiver.
No, this is my favorite wide receiver.
No, this is
You're
my
lying.
favorite wide receiver.
No, sorry.
Okay. No, I said it first, and I'm the host, so you shut it and you zip it and you secure it. We're referring to Rodgers' namesake over here, Emeka Egbuka out of Ohio State.
Oh, well done.
Thank you, sir.
I thought that was being butchered for sure.
Thank you, sir. We are here to
B
play.
is silent.
Don't even say it. But I'm going to call him Emeka for the entirety of the
Egbuka.
episode. For the entirety of the episode, I'm calling him Emeka. Rodgers' namesake. I like him already. He's out of Ohio State. OH. So PFF Big Board has him as ranked number 15. I think this guy is just a slot merchant. I think the majority of his snaps in college have been out of the slot, if I'm not mistaken. He's been comped to his boy, also out of Ohio State, JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Lam McConkey. I also got a nice comp to Amon-Ra St. Brown, which I liked a lot, because Amon-Ra St. Brown is a PPR demon when it comes to that type of stuff. Raj, tell me about your boy. Tell me about your namesake.
I'll let Knack take him because Knack has some favorites in terms of where he might land. I think.
Oh yes, very true.
Yeah, I don't know. Look, this guy here has been my top guy for a while. Watched him a lot actually this year, and like that route running is just incredible, and he is beautiful player in the slot. He could make every route like he's such a pristine route runner. I find like any team is going to enjoy this guy on their team. Definitely reliable hands, not a lot of drops, and versatile. He could play kind of every wide receiver slot on the line. So if he could play as your X, he could play as your slot guy. The only, I guess, knocks you have on him, he doesn't have that elite speed, but I think his route running is going to make it so he doesn't really require that 4.2 or 4.3 speed. Injuries have kind of slowed his development a little bit, and he may not be a true WR1 physically, but he would slot in as a great and a high end WR2 on your team. Something like a Chase Higgins kind of comparison, where he could be like the
The 1B to the 1A.
1B, exactly. That's the analogy I was looking for. Yeah, look, he's definitely been mocked to Pittsburgh quite a bit, and I think the fit is excellent. Bias aside, they're missing that possession slot guy, wide receiver. I think they like Calvin Austin's that small guy. We thought maybe he'd be a slot, whatever, but it's just he's too small. It's not his game. They really need this type of player back in their lineup, kind of like a Heinz Ward type player, where third down comes around, this
Mhm.
guy is going to catch the ball, is going to make those tough catches and whatnot.
Do
So
you think Roman Wilson being drafted last year would stop them from picking JSN? Not JSN, Emeka Egbuka.
I don't think so. And the reason why is because I think this is George Pickens' last year. I don't think they're going to trade him. The reason why they wouldn't trade him is because if he does sign a contract elsewhere, they'll get like a third round comp pick. So they're not going to trade him for less than a second round. And I'm not sure there's a team out there that's willing to pay a second round pick on a guy on an expiring contract. So I think they're going to keep him. It's going to be a lame duck year. Hopefully he doesn't hold in or hold out at camp, but they're going to need a wide receiver eventually next to DK. And I think Egbuka fits that profile beautifully. Like Wilson is good, third round pick. Didn't really impress in terms of being ready for game time last year. I know he was injured a bit, but wasn't Tomlin's favorite player. Didn't get to see the field as often, so hopefully that changes. But I think they're going to still need a leader, more elite guy than Roman Wilson. I don't see Roman Wilson being more than a high end 3-2 wide
Hmm.
receiver.
It would be very difficult for me to root for this guy if he's wearing a Steelers uniform, but it does make sense.
Yeah, seriously.
It does make sense
Change
to
my
True
him.
name.
football.
Change my name.
Yeah, seriously. It
Buying you a jersey if he's drafted
Ah,
with the Steelers, 100%.
yeah.
it
Actually,
does
be
make
pretty
sense though,
cool.
just from the positional need standpoint. Mind you, like I feel like a lot of teams can use a player of his qualities, of a like a slot merchant like him. Like everybody wants that reliable wide receiver coming out of the slot like he does, and the polished route runner and all that stuff. But like the Steelers haven't had a player like this in a long time, and you have Pickens already there, you have DK there, and those guys are outside guys, right? So this does make sense in my opinion.
So I want to hold the brakes on him being a slot merchant. He had in his career 1,300 air yards and 1,200 yards after the catch. So I think he has more juice than JSN. Like he literally looks like JSN, and I think because he went to OSU and they do have a very similar skill profile, it's an easy comp to make. But I do think he has more juice to him. If I just play the devil's advocate in terms of maybe I don't want to say weaknesses, but what would make people want to fade him is maybe the fact that he played with Jeremiah Smith, like the crazy amazing freshman, crazy amount of talent at OSU. So he's played with Garrett Wilson. I believe he was there at the same time as Garrett Wilson. He's obviously played with Chris Olave as well, Marvin Harrison Jr. So has that maybe
JSN.
JSN has
Yeah.
that maybe helped him have better production than what he's capable of? Maybe, but it just shows that Ohio State's a factory, and
Hmm.
even if you think maybe what the worst case scenario could be, again, Marvin Harrison Jr., Curtis Samuel, Wilson, Olave, JSN, Terry McLaurin, like it's been wide receiver U for the past over a decade now, so
Yeah.
if not longer.
Yeah, honestly, that them and LSU are right up there. I feel like when it comes to wide receiver universities. And just on your point about Marvin Harrison Jr., so only two wide receivers in Ohio State history have recorded multiple 1,000-yard receiving seasons: Marvin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Egbuka.
That's
So
crazy.
that's a very, very rare company to be in. So yeah, I like him a lot. Honestly, I know Roger, you sort of put in the show notes together, which thank you very much. They're making my job a lot easier. You put him at 4. I would have him at 3, in my opinion. I would have him before Matthew Golden, right around Ted McMillan. I like him that much too. I just feel like he's such a polished route runner, and we all seen what being a good route runner can do to a rookie wide receiver. We see it often, so I like this a lot.
High floor, like very low failure rate, I think.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Will he go in round 1? According to Nak, he will at 21 for the Steelers. We're going to keep it rolling. We got Luther Burden III coming out of Missouri. PFF Big Board rank him at 32. Comp, this is a bit of a Swiss Army knife from what I can see so far. Deebo Samuel, potentially with a better route runner. We have Brandon Ayuk, and I actually recently saw today Percy Harvin, which is probably the OG when it comes to being the Swiss Army knife in the NFL from a wide receiver standpoint. So, Raj, we're gonna jump it back to you since you so gracefully gave Mr. Egbuka over to Nak. Want to get your take on?
He was chomping at the bit.
He was salivate. He was drooling.
It had been too long since we hadn't mentioned the Steelers.
Here we go.
It's only been 14 minutes.
Time. I'll see you next time, guys.
I think for Burden, it's the yak ability. So 7.26 yak yards after catch per reception, 64 avoided tackles. So that's where I think the Deebo comp makes a lot of sense. I think the issue with Burden is a really good 2023 year, 86 catches, 1,200 yards, 9 TDs. Fell off quite a bit in 2024, 61 receptions, 676 yards, and 6 touchdowns. And look, when you talk about this type of archetype, when you say Deebo Samuel, it's very easy to see what the other weaknesses are. It's limited route tree. It's, can you beat... Are you only going to be good at man coverage or zone coverage? We know Deebo is very good against man on crossers or anything where he's in movement. But afterwards, anything else, I think it's really tough for him. So 29th in total air yards, 33rd in ADOT at 4.57. So this is the type of guy where, maybe if the Niners want to get back to having a Deebo-like player, I know their wide receiver core is pretty full now, but that could be an interesting one. Titans could be interesting as well. I think maybe add a bit more juice to their wide receiver core, but I think he's more of there's going to be a high variance type player.
Actually, I saw him mocked to go to the Titans in round 2. I think now we're getting to the point where like we spoke about the first 4 wide receivers, we expect these guys to go in the first round. I think now we're starting to talk about the day 2 guys or round 2 guys and round 3 guys.
Yeah, he's definitely great comp with Deebo Samuel. That's who I had. That's who I had as well. He has strong hands, and he's a fearless wide receiver over the middle. Pretty explosive off the line as well. A lot of cons though is his route tree needs a little bit of development, and he sometimes plays too physical as well, which could draw a lot of flags in the in the NFL. And I think he might have to clean up a little bit of footwork also to get regular playing time in the NFL and especially in his rookie season.
Yeah, I've seen some issues too. Well, I've seen some comps where he's having some problems just separating from a single man coverage, so that could also translate to some difficulty in the NFL. But I think this guy can be still a valuable asset, just for the fact that he is a bit of a Swiss Army knife that can do a lot of different things. We're gonna keep it moving on to our 6th ranked wide receiver, Mr. Tre Harris out of Ole Miss. PFF have him as a big board rank for number 47. I've been seeing comps for this guy. He's looking like an AJ Brown light, Allen Robinson, Alec Pierce. So more of the stretch the field type guy, I think is what we're looking at over here. His 2024 season stats, he had 60 receptions, 1,030 yards, and 7 touchdowns in 8 games, mind you. Nak, I want to get your take on him. How are you feeling about Mr. Tre Harris?
Yeah, I had an actually Cortland Sutton comp for him. Decent production, yes. Like as you mentioned, he only played 8 games last year, but definite wide receiver build at 6'2", 205 pounds. Combine a little bit slow at 4.5, I would say the 40, but again, I don't know how much we take into account these 40s too much. Definitely wins on the boundary and has great ball tracking skills. An amazing catch point and body control, which is definitely a plus in the NFL. And then maybe some weaknesses might include again needs to polish a bit on his route tree, and from what I've been reading, can disappear in games. So maybe if he's not getting the ball that often, doesn't really contribute as much, and maybe tends to pout a little bit in those scenarios. But yeah, nothing really more to add on this guy. He's probably going to be somewhere on the lines, end of round 2, beginning of round 3 type wide receiver. Again, maybe Titans wait a little longer and get him at the beginning of the third round.
Ole Miss wide receivers have a type. So AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, I believe Debo. I think Debo went to Ole Miss as well. So this is the type of wide receiver they like: physical, athletic, high A dot, but also yards after catch. I think out of like all the guys who are second round and further, him definitely more than Burden. I think he has a chance to potentially break out. Because I think AJ Brown was second round wide receiver, if I'm not mistaken. Debo as
Mhm.
well, DK Metcalf as
Debo
well.
was third, I think.
Debo was third. There
Yeah.
you go. And
Debo was a
DK
little
was
bit later on.
DK was definitely not second. So they have a very, very good track record of producing stars at the wide receiver position.
Yeah, I'm just concerned about he might have just a limited route tree. Like if you're looking at the routes that he did play a lot last year, he was mostly on hitch and post routes, right? So more that vertical type of route, which makes sense for his yards per catch is super super high. Just to correct you a little bit, Raj, just want to keep everyone honest over here. Debo Samuel went to USC, but
Yes, South Carolina. That's it. Yeah. Thank
it's
you.
okay. It's okay. We all make those mistakes, myself included. So we're looking at a potential wide receiver 2 guy, RPO. Sorry, excuse me. No, pardon me. Looking at a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, really on a vertical offense. So definitely a downfield weapon who could be used in some interesting situations. Next on the docket is Mr. Jaylin Noel. Is it Noel? Is
I
it
was
Noel?
hearing Noel. I was hearing Noel.
Noel. Yeah, there's no accent on that, and these guys don't live in Quebec. So this is Jaylin Noel. Um, out of Iowa State. PFF Big Board ranking 68. We're getting some comps of him to T.Y. Hilton and Khalil Shakur, which for me, those are fantastic comps.
Shakur.
Uh, 2024 season stats. He had 80 receptions for 1,100 yards, about 1,200 yards, let's say, and 8 touchdowns. Nice build, Rod. Just like how we were talking to before, I think it was Matthew Golden. You were mentioning how he has the perfect ideal wide receiver build. This guy's 5'10", 200 pounds, right around there at what you want as a wide receiver. How are you feeling about Mr. Jaylin Noel?
So the size is small, but 23 bench press reps at the combine. So that's at I believe 225. So the guy's pretty very strong actually for a wide receiver, and still 4.39 40-yard dash. What I love is that he improved every year. If you look at his 2021 to 2024, he finally got to that 1,000 yards in 2024. And the comps, I really like the comps, but I find he actually plays bigger and more physical than say a T.Y. Hilton and maybe to some extent even a Khalil Shakir. We'll talk about his counterpart Higgins as well, but I think if you were to maybe dock Noel in terms of any type of weaknesses, the fact that he played with another really really good wide receiver next to him. But to me, this is the type of player that slot deep threat for sure is going to be a number 2 or number 3 wide receiver. He might have issues with physicality, being slick. He's still only 5'10", but really like his profile, and I think he can be a pretty decent player in the NFL.
I had Hunter Renfrew, but faster as a comp. Pretty shifty, quick separations, quick movements. Drop rate a bit of a concern though, 7.2%.
Yeah.
That could be an issue. Can't be dropping the ball in the NFL, asked Quinton Johnson. And I guess doesn't add much versatility in the red zone. Smaller frame in the red zone, so might have to get it done after the catch in those terms. And I think you said it right, Raj. He probably benefited from another wide receiver beside him, and therefore his stats were kind of, I guess, blown up a little bit. Decent player for sure, but I definitely leaning towards a day 3 pick, I think, for Noel.
Yeah, just as we're talking about him right now, I could see this as a Wandale Robinson type of comp too, right? This guy's going to be playing primarily out of the slot, I think, and that might might hinder his upside from a fantasy perspective. He can be definitely a contributing member to any NFL team he goes to. Because want to keep this very clear, we're talking about real life NFL, not just fantasy. But from a fantasy perspective, his ceiling might be capped a little bit just from the limited route tree and the limited role he's going to play in the offense.
I could see him with the Rams as a WR3.
Yeah, I like the Rams a lot.
Bigger Tutu Atwell.
Yeah, because they don't really have that slot guy anymore. Now that Cooper Kupp is gone, mind you, he played a little bit everywhere. I can see him being. I can see him going to the Rams.
Puka's going to be the slot guy there.
Yeah, I guess so, right? He's going to take up all those targets.
With your ex.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. We're gonna move on to the last wide receiver that we're going to be covering, ladies and gentlemen. This is the 8th one. This is a heavy, full-packed episode, guys. You're welcome. All right, you're welcome. Jayden Higgins, Iowa State. So this is the second Iowa State wide receiver, the one that Roger was alluding to beforehand. Jayden Higgins, PFF Big Board has him as 57th overall. Comp, we've been seeing Eric Decker, a little bit of Drake London in there, Tim Patrick. I saw Kenny Golladay, and I was like, oof. I'm like, you know what? He did have some good years at one point. So he's a big wide receiver. Looking at 6'4", 210. Last year, 2024, he had 87 receptions for, again, 1,200 yards and 9 touchdowns. Looks more of a deep threat, Knack. What do you think?
I like him as a big-bodied possession receiver, actually, and he's actually a very good blocker. So I think that gets him into the lineup for NFL like run-heavy systems at the moment, and that will get you on the field right away, especially as a rookie. And he has really reliable hands, so he's not going to drop many balls. That's why more possession-y type of wide receiver. I feel like he lacks some speed and separation, so I'm not sure he's that home run hitter. The route running is still a little raw, and his ceiling might be, I feel like, WR3, a little bit of a red zone specialist. He's going to be obviously heavily targeted in the red zone, but definitely would thrive in a run heavy offensive system, especially as a rookie.
Yeah, I agree with what Nex says. I think the red zone aspect, 9 TDs in the red zone in 2024. So that puts him in an area where, maybe it could be a jump ball merchant, fade routes in the red zone. I think he just, like, I saw Steve Smith he did a draft comparison with him and McMillan. It sounded like Steve Smith liked Higgins more. He felt like very similar profile, but had a bit more dog in him, more intensity. So we'll see. But this type of player, like, not a yak threat at all. So it's really kind of have to be with a specific type of offense. X receiver, he's not going to move around a lot.
Well, that's why I really like the Kenny Golladay comp, because that's exactly what Kenny Golladay was, right?
Hopefully he has better hands.
Yeah. Hopefully he doesn't get drafted by the Giants. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Wow, we went through a gamut of wide receivers over here. We got really some really nice prospects. You know something? When I was diving deep into the wide receiver prospect pool, I was like, you know what? It won't be as good as last year's, and probably not. But at the same time, there is still some quality to be had, though, amongst the 8 guys that we spoke about, and also about the other wide receivers that we didn't get a chance to speak about either. But we do want to thank everyone for taking the time to listen to our podcast. You guys could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we really appreciate that. Please don't forget to listen to our previous episodes where we spoke about QBs and also running backs. Obviously, find us on all the social medias, on Twitter, on TikTok, on Instagram, on YouTube. Listen to us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Just share, subscribe, like. Let's continue rolling on this train because we're having a lot of fun and we want you guys along here with us. So for Roger, Knack, and myself, Fab, thank you everyone for coming out tonight. We appreciate you all. Have a good night. Peace. Roger, cue the music.
I can't wait to get Raj an Egbuka jersey, black and gold. It's gonna look so nice on you, Raj.
I hate that. Honestly, he's a fan.
I might even really
get you as a prospect. I really don't want the Steelers.
Maybe I'll get you the Bumblebee jersey too.
He needs to go to the Packers. Honestly, they need
because the last thing they need right now was another wide receiver.
They need a guy who could catch.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
would be a good start. Yeah.
Unlike Mac's favorite player, Dontavian Wicks. Good night, everyone. Peace out.
Dodge's favorite.
Not anymore. Night, everyone.
Goodbye.